Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my January 2026 reading wrap up and creating a wintry spread for the month. Now, did we actually get any snow in London? Well, barely, but we can embellish a little bit with the graphics that we choose. How cute is this little snowman that I found on Canva? I really wanted to choose one which had a red hat because some of the books I read this month have a little bit of red and orange on the book cover, so I thought that would tie in nicely. So the first book, I actually did read most of it in December, but I did finish in January, so it's going to be included in this spread, and that is Book 3 of the Kindred's Curse saga by Penn Cole. We are following our main character DM, who is a healer, as you can see from the graphics card. I was going to use this, but then I decided last minute that I would love to give the whole series its own spread when it finishes, so I'm going to hold on to that one. But we are following the main character DM, so she is in a world where high fae are considered the upper society and humans are the lesser society, and as you can imagine, tension is brewing, revolution is in the air. This is all stuff we learn at the beginning of the series. I won't go into too much detail because obviously I don't want to do any spoilers, but I really enjoyed Book 3. We are introduced to a lot of the other realms in the world, so we are moving around a little bit more, getting to know the other characters, and this was a solid 4 stars for me. I know a lot of people don't like the main character DM, and look, I'll be honest, she's not the sharpest tool in the shed. It is kind of annoying where something will happen at the beginning of the book, and as a reader, you instantly clock that this is very important information. Meanwhile, like 10, 12 chapters later, finally DM is like, wait a minute. But overall, I think she's quite likable. She's young, you kind of don't expect her to know everything. I also read my first dark academia fantasy this month, and that was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. So we are following the character Siona, who's first woman ever to be admitted to a prestigious order of mages. So at the beginning, she's so honored. She's been assigned to a expansion assignment, which is meant to really give more power to the city. But she does very quickly realize that generally power progress is usually built on some sort of systems of exploitation. So there are quite a few dark themes in this book, but very real themes, so many things that you can apply to our own world, and it's just one of those books where it just kind of leaves you thinking, and it is depressing to read about, but it's important to read about. And I really did like our main character. She's quite flawed. A lot of her thinking is a little bit backwards, but you can really see her starting to grow as the book goes along, and it's very high stakes, like the last 30%. I was on the edge of my seat. I also really enjoyed the unique magic system. Rather than magic just being something that you're inherently born with, it is something that you really need to study. So to create a spell, you need to understand coordinates, you need to understand maths, you need to understand compounds, elements, and yeah, it was just something really enjoyable that I'd never read before. This was a solid 4.5 stars for me. One of my favourite things about being part of a book club is that it exposes you to books that you never would have picked up yourself. Case in point, Legendborn by Tracy Dion. So generally, I avoid contemporary fantasy. It is just not a genre I enjoy. I actually DNF'd Crescent City. I think I'm one of the few people who could just not get into that series. Something just really throws me off when we are in a fantasy world, but rather than being at an old pub and drinking ale, the characters are off going clubbing and doing shots. It's just, I don't know, something doesn't feel right to me. But that being said, I did really enjoy this book. I ended up doing it on Audible because I had one of those offers for 99p audiobooks, and I thought, well, I'm probably not going to like this, so I'll just use that credit on that because I don't want to actually pay full price for it. But I am so glad that I read this book or listened to this book. I will say, at the beginning, I was kind of half paying attention. So before I start book 2, I will definitely need to read like a proper recap. But once I started to get into the story, I loved it. I will definitely be physically reading the second book though. The audiobook was good, but I just kind of want to properly really read and concentrate and immerse myself for book 2, because it is quite a kind of intricate storyline. Just definitely put this book on your radar. Unfortunately, the next book was a little bit of a letdown, and that was In the Veins of the Drowning by Kelly Cassidy. So this is book 1 of a duology, and I saw so much hype for this on BookTok. Everyone was describing it as a atmospheric, kind of eerie read. Our main character is a siren. The romance was described as slow burn, lots of yearning. I'm sorry, there was no yearning, and I feel like people need to figure out what that word means before they start throwing it around in reviews. This was just straight up insta lust. There was no likable characters in this. They kind of spend most of the book bickering, pointing out each other's like arguably correct flaws. So it was just straight up insta lust, and it's really hard to root for characters for them to do well when they're just unlikable. She doesn't really have any ambition in the book. She spends a lot of the time crying when things go wrong. She also really lacks empathy, which I understand probably does come a little bit from the fact that she is, you know, a creature, a siren. But it's just really hard to root for her when she's doing horrible things and just has no remorse for it. Like, there's one point in the book she just does something so unbelievably horrific, and then later on she's just like, yeah, you know, I wish I felt bad, but I just really don't. I kind of already forgot it happened. And so obviously as a reader, you're just kind of sitting there being like, oh, okay. And I just feel like where the story could have really focused on some interesting world building, maybe a little bit of character development, it just kind of focused on the insta-love. Yeah, book 2 is coming out in July. If it's on Kindle Unlimited, I might give it a chance and just kind of see how it wraps up. Maybe it improves, but I wouldn't say like you need to run out and read this book. And the last book I read was Hollow by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is another duology. We are in a world where there is a evil enchanted forest taking over the land. So a group of humans and fae enter the forest to try and break the curse, whilst there is also some power to be won. So they will have a common goal, but at the same time, they're in competition with each other. And this is dual POV. So we have the female perspective and a male character's perspective. And this is also a romantasy. So on the one hand, I like the dual POV because you are getting a lot of internal monologue. You really understand their characters' motives, their history. But the writing, I don't know, I wasn't really a fan of. You can really tell it's two authors. I felt like I was getting a little bit of whiplash between like each writer as they're switching. One is writing very atmospheric, very descriptive, a little bit much for me, but overall it did kind of set the tone of the book. And then there are just parts where the writing was a little bit off, and I found the main male character a little bit annoying as well. He's just kind of having the same conversation in his head. So this is just your typical romance. See, it was fine, 3 stars. If book 2 is on Kindle Unlimited, I might read it just to see how it wraps up.